Por el 5286-2852.
A reading today from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 12, verse...
Display of skill and strength.
Que todo funcione. La clave aquí es la organización que permite articular las capacidades. Hacemos un llamado a que si alguien sabe alguno de ellos, lo comuniquen a la línea 157-107. Hasta 50 millones de pesos de recompensa por delitos electorales, hasta 200 millones de pesos por evitar atentados terroristas, hasta 1.000 millones de pesos por proteger candidatos presidenciales.
Habrá cerca de 15.000 uniformados en las calles de las principales ciudades colombianas, también en las zonas rurales, durante todo este fin de semana y en todo el país. Por su parte, el candidato presidencial, Abelardo de la Espriella,
va a ser de vuelta, digamos, por este triunfo maravilloso que has tenido en primera vuelta, y obviamente mi expectativa y mi apoyo, digo, para lo que viene ahora para el balotaje. Así es que lo que además, digo, esperamos que sea una nueva etapa en la relación entre, porque bueno, viste cómo no nos llevamos muy bien con
Lo he visto. Lo he visto, presidente, pero no se preocupe que la horrible noche pronto cesará y vamos a establecer una relación inmejorable.
Me dicen que no funciona, lo que no funciona lo funciona lo que
Así es. Así es que nada que funcione en ellos, que es la pobreza, que caos les sirve.
Eso fue
Said the doctor, "You need to laugh. Go down to hear Grimaldi, the clown. All London is holding its sides, laughing at him." But the visitor straightened himself and said, "Doctor, I am Grimaldi. No, we cannot laugh away our fears, but there is one whose cooling, healing touch has still its ancient power. Jesus, the name that calms our fears."
So he said, flamethrower. Now listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. In front of you is the Garden of Eden. What are you discouraged about? You know, when you leave here to go home today, you probably don't think of your apartment as the Garden of Eden. When I built my house, in the old house, I had all kind of problems with water and all this sort of stuff in it. One I use, one I don't want to use. But my boat was made for one.
Through the alley. That's when Robert Palmer was jamming his little feet. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, my Macintosh is not cooperating. It's getting buzzed, and there you are. Well, you are here. Megahertz. This is the Lumpy Gravy Radio Show. All right. What do you think, James? I think we're ready to roll on some more. Some more tunes. Some more music. Yeah. All right. Definitely.
For God, for the Word of God. All the more reason.
Mendelssohn's Overture to A Midsummer Night's Dream, played by the Chamber Orchestra of Europe. two more interesting pieces for Midsummer now, suggested by our loyal listeners in Finland. The first is a traditional Viking folk song called Lily of the Valley from Iceland. And after that, we'll hear a traditional Danish reel from the region around Roskilde called the Peat Dance. Apparently, the male dancers are required to move around carrying a piece of peat on their heads.
At the door, 1 hour, 44 minutes. Coordinated Universal Time.
Palestina, una historia sin fin. Las organizaciones terroristas más sanguinarias del planeta. Este es el primero en tierra contra un presunto terrorista, en este caso en Venezuela, señaló Trump. Mencionó que en acción se coordinaron.
Vous écoutez Radio Roumanie Internationale. RRI de A à Z. RRI alternative. Valentina Benavski.
Bonjour, aujourd'hui nous parlons santé et notamment accès aux soins médicaux. En Roumanie, l'accès à la santé est fortement inégalitaire, bien que le système de santé repose sur un service universel avec la présence des secteurs publics et privés. L'État fournit une assurance de santé aux travailleurs et aux étudiants. En cas d'urgence, les soins sont également couverts par un système gratuit. Celui-ci présente cependant plusieurs failles, le manque de médecins et d'infrastructures. Puis, selon l'Organisation mondiale de la santé, 12% de la population n'avait pas d'assurance en 2022. Et enfin, un accès inégal dans les zones rurales. Or, selon l'Institut national de la statistique, en 2025, environ 45% de la population roumaine vivait en zone rurale, étant souvent obligée à parcourir des dizaines de kilomètres pour se faire soigner. C'est pour répondre à ce besoin précis que la Croix-Rouge roumaine a monté le projet Caravan of Good, renommé Caravane de la Santé. Lancé en février 2022, ce projet a permis d'offrir des soins de santé à près de 200 communes en 8 mois. Pour Radio Roumanie Internationale, Mathilde Broma a rencontré Raluca Buza, responsable du programme santé de l'organisation, et Dan Lucian Brumar, chargé de communication au sein de la Croix-Rouge roumaine. Voici son reportage.
Aquí por Radio República, la voz del directorio democrático cubano.
Y ahora en Radio República, Canta Claro, un comentario de Julio Estorino.
Todas las penurias, todas las carencias que sufre el pueblo cubano, que van desde la ausencia de los derechos humanos hasta la falta del simple café con leche, la inexistente calidad de vida, algo que abarca todos los aspectos de la existencia humana, esa que golpea sin piedad aspectos tan imprescindibles como medicamentos, vivienda, agua potable, higiene.
even alcoholic. And that image is definitely deeply rooted in Czech historical memory, and it was reinforced exactly by the films, that I played the clip, like the Hussite trilogy that I mentioned earlier.
But not entirely fair, is that what you're saying?
Not entirely, and this is where we have to be, again, more careful, because as historians like Eva Dolezhalova point out, a lot of that image comes from his political opponents and from later interpretations.
Right, but so how should we see him?
Let's hear it directly.
King Wenceslas IV is portrayed in many different ways in historical literature and sources. I would not describe him as incapable, but rather as an educated ruler who failed at a critical moment. This applies especially to the events before 1400, which led to his deposition as king of the Romans. So stories about his unpredictable behavior, his drinking, or even meetings with an hangman are at least partly propaganda from his opponents, those who stood against the Bohemian reform movement, and not only German people, but even in Bohemian state. So in reality, his greatest weakness was his passivity. He hesitated to take clear action, and this indecision contributed significantly to the escalation of the situation. After the execution of Jan Hus and Jerome of Prague, however, Wenceslaus clearly supported the Roman, that is, I said Roman, but actually Catholic Church. Paradoxically, in 1418 and 1419, he began to take steps to limit the spread of the reform movement. For example, he restricted the number of places in Prague where communion under both kinds was allowed. Tensions increased further after gatherings marking the anniversary of Hus's execution in 1419, when some participants were arrested and imprisoned. At the same time, the king had already grown distrustful of Prague and spent most of his time at his residence at Nový Hrádek, near Kunratice, which is about an hour's ride from the city center. His direct involvement in the events of July 1419 was therefore quite limited.
A todos nuestros oyentes que esta encuesta no es oficial y no tiene valor estadístico, pero les comparto algunos resultados. Un equipo de encuestadores de nuestra agencia salió a las calles y entrevistamos a 253 personas entre los 18 años y 42 años de edad. Esto nos tardó desde el jueves pasado hasta hoy. Y estos son los resultados. 216 personas dijeron que votarían por el candidato Abelardo Asprilla. 9 dijeron que votarían por Iván Cepeda. Es una cifra muy alta para el Asprilla y baja para los que...
Nuestra dirección postal es la Vista Sicilia, Servicio Español, CK33, código postal 443, Áncora, Virginia. Nuestra dirección electrónica es español@grc.net.gr. Hemos llegado al final de nuestra emisión de hoy en la radio de la voz de Virginia. Les deseamos a todos un hermoso día. Hasta mañana.
La competencia para decir si acepta o no un resultado. Son los colombianos los dueños de las elecciones. Todos los servidores públicos estamos en la obligación de acatar el resultado que los jueces nos digan y que nos va a informar en forma inmediata o muy rápida la Contraloría como la figura del responsable que está en la elección en Colombia.
También en las redes sociales, el magistrado que preside el CNE, el doctor Cristian Quirós, explicó en las redes sociales cuál es el papel del CNE.
Nosotros tenemos la democracia más grande, fuerte y sólida de América Latina. Independientes, funcionamos sin jefes, hacemos otra cosa diferente a lo que hace el legislativo y el ejecutivo, y las instituciones fuertes y sólidas hacen que crezca la democracia. Nosotros lo que hacemos es garantizar que las elecciones y que cada colombiano que vote el próximo domingo tenga su voto en cada urna. En Estados Unidos las elecciones allá se hacen más o menos cerca de...
Para seguir en solitario. 150 discos vendidos. Right now at your location. And coverage maps for FM and AM stations across the U.S., Europe, and more. New app. Just visit dx-66.com. WRFI, local children. USA।
और जानकारी के लिए कृपया हमारी वेबसाइट phut2033.org पर जाएं। आप हमें
En todas las conversaciones importantes en América Latina. Hola Cuba, junto a Paul Shea, es un saludo que acorta las distancias, que nos acerca en la búsqueda de lo que debe ser. Hola Cuba, bienvenido.
Saludos queridos amigos, bienvenidos a esta nueva entrega de Hola Cuba. Nos acompaña como siempre el ingeniero Jorge Trilla en la producción general de Radio República. El comunismo es un engaño porque vende igualdad mientras construye una maquinaria de poder que aplasta cualquier disidencia. Promete que el pueblo gobernará, pero en cuanto el Estado se queda con la propiedad, la producción y la verdad oficial,
El ciudadano queda reducido a súbdito. La historia es tosuda. Cada experimento comunista terminó en escasez, represión y una guerra intocable. Libre y convierta la crítica en delito. A la libertad con la esperanza de una igualdad que nunca llega. La evidencia histórica, desde Europa del Este hasta...
Buenas noches, estimados oyentes. A continuación les presentamos nuestro programa informativo del día. Política. Las candidaturas para la presidencia del PNL pueden presentarse hasta esta tarde de sábado en virtud de unas mociones presentadas por el presidente en funciones junto con su equipo. El actual líder, Ilie Boloyan, ya ha declarado que se presentará para un nuevo mandato al frente del partido, mientras que el primer ministro designado, el disidente Adrian Bestia, que había anunciado su intención de presentarse como contracandidato de Boloyan, ha precisado que ya no se presentará a las elecciones. El Congreso del PNL del domingo se elegirá al nuevo equipo directivo y se decidirá la estrategia del partido para el próximo periodo. También el domingo, el PSD ha convocado una reunión del Consejo Político Nacional para tomar una decisión sobre el apoyo al nuevo Ejecutivo que condiciona a la inclusión en el programa de gobierno de medidas para proteger a la población y reactivar la economía. PNRR. Rumanía ha concluido con éxito las negociaciones técnicas con la Comisión Europea sobre la última modificación del Plan Nacional de Recuperación y Resiliencia y conserva más de 20.000 millones de euros del componente de fondos no reembolsables, según ha anunciado el ministro interino de Inversiones y Proyectos Europeos, Dragos Roslav. Este ha afirmado que a pesar del ajuste de algunos indicadores y la reformulación de ciertos hitos, se han mantenido los objetivos esenciales de las reformas y
WV and minute 48 on WWVH. This signal has been created in our field research, and it is joint efforts that have radio citizen science investigation and NIST. The signal consists of various tones, chirp, and noise bursts. The signal will be broadcast for several weeks. For more information on home science and the WWWVH project, please visit www.comsci.org/www. a los octavos finales, a los cuartos finales y a ser finalistas. Vamos a ir paso a paso, ¿eh? Paso a paso. ¡Ay, qué emoción! Ahora sí, vamos a las cartas. Acá voy a leer una carta de mi... ¿Qué nos dice?
For satellites, Earth-Moon earthbounds, and it's perfect for working weak signals as well. The IC9700 combines all-mode operation on VHF, UHF, 1.2 gigahertz, and it does it with SDR precision. Its real-time dual band scope, full duplex capability, and high output power make it the ultimate transceiver for operators pushing the limits above 50 megahertz. The ICOM IC9700, for the love of ham radio. This is CQ Calling Now News from Great Britain. Join the Radio Society of Great Britain annual general meeting live stream from around the world. World Amateur Radio Day is coming up on the 18th of April, and what better way to celebrate than by joining the RSGB 2026 annual general meeting. The AGM will once again be taking place online, so as many RSGB members as possible can watch and take part. If you'd like to join the live stream, all you need to do is go to rsgb.org/AGM. That's rsgb.org/AGM at 10 a.m. on Saturday, April the 18th. Pretty cool stuff there. Also in news from Great Britain, learn how RSGB defends the amateur radio spectrum following the formal business of the RSGB 2026 annual general meeting. The Society is delighted that spectrum experts Murray Neiman, callsign Golf 6, Juliet Yankee Bravo, and Barry Lewis, callsign Golf 4, Sierra Juliet Hotel, will be joined by the IARU Vice President Thomas Reed, callsign Delta Foxtrot 2, Oscar, and RSGB General Manager, good friend of mine, Steve Thomas, callsign Mike 1, Alpha Charlie Bravo. They'll be discussing the recent and current threats to the amateur radio spectrum and how the RSGB leads the input into many of the spectrum defenses. RSGB EMC Chair John Rogers, callsign Mike 0 Juliet Alpha Victor, will also talk about potential new major threats to the noise floor. RSGB Propagation Studies Committee Chair Steve Nichols, callsign Golf 0 Kilo Yankee Alpha, will facilitate that discussion. Whether you're new to amateur radio or you've been enjoying it for decades, it's a great opportunity to enjoy an important presentation that you certainly won't want to miss. Finally, in news from Great Britain, if you're attending the NARSA rally on Saturday, pop by, say hello to members of the RSGB team who are going to be attending. The event's taking place at the Nordbeck Castle Hotel in Blackpool, as well as RSGB bookstall. You'll find the RSGB Morse Competency Lead let me rephrase that. As well as RSGB bookstall, you'll also find the RSGB Morse Competency Lead Person, Eric Arkansas, callsign Mike 0 Kilo Zulu Bravo, will be offering Morse competency tests for those who would like to test their skills. Members of the Society's regional team will also be on hand, as well as RSGB President Bob Beebe, callsign Golf Uniform 4 Yankee Oscar X-Ray, who will be presenting the trophies for the construction competition and Best Club website at 1:30 p.m. We're going to have great news for you regarding contests, special events, and the expedition calendar, plus your HF forecast, coming up next. This is CQ Calling. My friends, I'd like to talk with you about an ICOM radio that's very dear to my heart. It's the ICOM IC705.
Did you know that the ICOM IC705 is the perfect sidekick and QRP companion with base station features, and it also has functionality right at the tip of your fingers, but in a portable package? The ICOM IC705 covers high-frequency bands plus 6 meters, 2 meters, and the 70-centimeter band. It's compact. It weighs just over 2 pounds. Can you believe that? It also has RF direct sampling for most of the high-frequency band and IF sampling for frequencies that are above 25 megahertz. The ICOM IC705, for the love of ham radio. Back to CQ Calling, powered by ICOM. ICOM for the love of ham radio. Here's your special event calendar for the coming weekend, April 16th to the 21st. Louisiana Purchase special event will be on. Call sign November 5 Lima. That's November 5 Lima. This is out of Gonzales, Louisiana, Ascension Amateur Radio Club. Plan to just be on 20 meters, right about 14.3 megahertz. Call sign again, November 5 Lima. Also coming up April 16th from 9 Zulu till 1600, call sign Whiskey 6, check that, Whiskey 9 Whiskey, that's Whiskey 9 Whiskey, for the Wilbur Wright 159th birthday event. This is out of Newcastle, Indiana, the Amateur Radio Club there. Plan to be right about 14.340 on the 20-meter band, just working voice. Again, 14.340, the call sign Whiskey 9 Whiskey. Also coming up April 17th through April 20th, the Florida State Parks on the Air contest. Call sign Whiskey 4 Alpha Charlie. That's Whiskey 4 Alpha Charlie out of the Nokomis, Florida Amateur Radio Club. They plan to be also on 20 meters, right about 14.337 megahertz. Finally, coming up in the near future, International Marconi Day official stations are out there. One of them is out of Baltimore. Call sign will be Kilo 3 Sierra. That's Kilo 3 Sierra. Plan to be working the HF bands on that one from 1300 to 2100 UTC on April 25th. Also for Marconi Day, call sign Whiskey 2 Golf Sierra Bravo. That's Whiskey 2 Golf Sierra Bravo. They plan to be on a multitude of frequencies, 20 meters about 14.245, 10 meters about 28.5 megahertz, 15, 21.325, and down on 40, right about 7.275 megahertz. Contest calendar, there's a lot going on right now. The Texas State Parks on the Air, along with Florida and Georgia and Louisiana, all happening this coming weekend. Work a lot of them at, a lot of contests going on. Also the Michigan QSO Party and Ontario QSO Party, as well as the Quebec QSO Party are coming up this weekend. And don't forget as well, the EA Open HF Championships being held out of Spain. This is only going to be on Saturday, and it's also going to be limited
more
to
of this
Morse
garbage
code, I believe. Checking on this right now. Yes, Morse code. The bands, of course, will be everything but the work band, so it's going to be 80, 40, 20 meters, 15 meters, and the 10-meter band.
Lovely.
And the power limits, they only have QRP at 5 or QRP low power, QRP at 1 watt for CW on the Spain Morse code contest. Pretty cool. The expeditions are winding down from the big peak that we had in January. There's still quite a few that are pretty good.
Yeah, every day, every weekend.
Through May 31st, call sign Sierra 09 Sierra. That's Sierra 09 Sierra. They plan to be working sideband as well as Morse code. Also looking to do Earth-Moon Earthbounds as well as QO 100 digital mode. So be looking for them. 100 watts. Call sign for Western Sahara Sierra 09 Sierra. Also, Rodriguez Islands, 3 Bravo 9 November. That's 3 Bravo 9 November through May 20th. They plan to be 20, 15, and 10, and they're only going to be doing Morse code. HF forecast powered by ICOM. ICOM for the love of ham radio. Low SFIs with decent conditions on ham radio day and nighttime bands. Look for some fading. Be aware there's going to be some fading out there. Best daytime DX 15 meters, nighttime 20. Shortwave, good conditions, little fading on bands. Special bands to be listening for 15 meters and the 19-meter band.
Hello, this is Andy Shell in Hilversum, the Netherlands. You're listening to WRMI, Radio Miami International, from transmitters in OPG.
Ugh.